Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Let's get right into the podcast.
An address.
What's that?
A safe house in Paris.
Why would I need a safe house in Paris?
Should things at some point go terribly wrong, it's good to have a place to go. You know, for a cup of tea.
My brothers, my sisters, the clock is ticking faster. My dream, we who live for truth, for love. The moment has come to take our rightful place in the world where we wizards were free. Join me or die.
The wizarding and non-wizarding worlds have been at peace for over a century. Grindelwald wants to see that peace destroyed.
You want me to hunt him down? To kill him? Dumbledore, why can't you go?
I cannot move against Grindelwald. It has to be you.
You don't suffer from motion sickness, do you?
I don't do well on boats.
You'll be fine.
Do you know why I admire you, Newt? You do not seek power. You simply ask, is the thing right? The time's coming when you're gonna have to pick a side.
No, I don't do sides.
What are you gonna do?
I think it's something.
Newt, you never met a monster you couldn't love.
Let's take him.
That's your brother?
I think that might have been the best moment of my life.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Shoutout Podcast. I'm your host Ross Baxter and today's episode is number 15 of the series. And for today we're going to be talking about a really great event that I attended and I highly recommend for you guys to attend next year, which is Vertex. So what is Vertex? Vertex is a yearly event that takes place in London in the UK. It is the ultimate event for 2D and 3D artists, from games, VFX, VR, character concepting, real-time creation and a lot more, and it boosts your skills with the help with leading industry artists and learn from the world's best creative studios no matter what you specialise in. So as always, if you are new to the Shoutout Podcast, we are live on 9 other platforms along with YouTube. We are live on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and finally Stitcher. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget, make sure to go smash that subscribe button. It will be much appreciated. Also, as always on the Shoutout Podcast, make sure to start sharing your links in the comment section below. Obviously, if you're on YouTube, and every week I will give you a shout out on the next podcast and also on my Twitter page. So this week's shout out is Imad Misaudi. I really hope, man, I pronounced your name. I've been checking out your work. It's really impressed. It's looking awesome. I love the texture you've got going on some of your pieces and the colour and the lighting, and just what you've been working on. It shows a wide variety of skill. Just keep killing it, keep working on it, and make sure to go give him a follow. I'll share his link in the description below. And like I said, I'll be sharing your work, man, on my social medias, so make sure to check that out. So let's get right into the podcast. What are we going to be doing, what are we going to be talking about, and why am I talking about this? So Vertex, so I attended Vertex literally, so I think it was the 8th of this month, so almost 2 to 3 weeks ago, so it was not that long ago, and it was amazing. And I want to talk about why I went to this place and what it offers, and why I recommend for you guys to go to if you have the opportunity. So basically, to give a bit of story and context to the whole thing, so I was introduced to this amazing event by one of my mentors who's been helping me out, a guy called Pat, and Pat introduced Vertex to me because he was actually meant to be one of the main guest speakers on this. However, he had another thing that he had to attend. Therefore, he asked me to attend it because he really knew what my passion was, which was film, and obviously there's a lot of awesome game places there as well that I was really passionate about. And hearing about his reasoning about going to it and hearing about what I would get out of it is basically what intrigued me to go. And the fact that Framestore was there as well, I was like, right, I have to go to this. Like, this is super cool. One of my main idols is actually doing a presentation at the event. His name is Christian Mantz, and I actually got to talk to the guy just for a brief few seconds and stuff, but just the fact that I got to hear about what he does and to hear a presentation on Fantastic Beasts, it was awesome. So, I went down to London a few weeks ago, like I said, and one of the main things that obviously made this like a go-to place was the fact that it was free. And obviously, like there's an option as well to pay money to go to this event and have more access to a lot of other things. But the fact that the majority of it was free was so great, and there was thousands of people there. There was a massive attendance, and it was just great to be surrounded by tons of artists. So when I was there was so many different things up for grabs. So when you check out the website, which I'll include in the description, so if you want to attend it next year, I highly recommend giving this website a look. And basically there was all these different presentations going on, lots of guest speakers from ILM, from Framestore, from Rare. So they were talking about Sea of Thieves, they were talking about Jurassic World, talking about Fantastic Beasts, all this juiciness just all to come into play in one area. So the building that it took place in, so the expo and so forth, and where all the sponsors were, was, let me see, what was it called? It was called the Olympia Conference Centre. And it was a massive place, and obviously I live in Scotland, going to London was crazy, it was really good. And one of the main reasons I went to this place was obviously I wanted to go see all these different companies and talk to them, but the main one for me, which if you're a student and you're listening to the podcast, is portfolio. So they actually had a whole area sectioned off purely just for portfolio reviews. So I had the privilege to get my portfolio reviewed by an artist, an incredible environment artist called George O'Kiev. I hope I'm pronouncing your name, mate. It was really awesome meeting you. And basically he thoroughly broke down my portfolio. So the do's, the don'ts, where I was doing really well in, and he really understood as well in terms of, like, he was listening to where my career path, like what I wanted to achieve, and he was giving me like the best possible advice. So I was able to spend, I think it was 20 to 30 minutes with George, and through this portfolio review, he understood where I wanted to go. So I was talking to him about, I had a passion for certain types of film, I had a passion for certain types of games, and I kind of knew what area I wanted to get into. So, for example, my portfolio, on my ArtStation at the moment, if you want to go check it out, the main art pieces I have on there is The Hobbit, so art pieces designed around The Hobbit, art pieces designed around sci-fi, so sci-fi environments, large-scale environments, The Martian. I've also got Harry Potter, a throne piece I've designed and sculpted in ZBrush based around the concept of immortality of Lord Voldemort. And I had all these different areas that I wanted to discuss and identify where I was going wrong and identify what I've been doing right. And on the upside, the majority of the interview or portfolio review was really positive. Like, he was saying I was doing really well, my sculpting skills was really good, and it was great feeling to hear someone from the industry to tell me what I've been doing good at. And then he was telling me the things that I needed to improve on certain pieces that he could see, So for example, I have a Hobbit piece that I sculpted, so it was a door ornate piece of art, and he was saying it was a good sculpt. However, I could really enhance my texturing ability, and he was breaking down like the whole idea of texturing in terms of my understanding of materials, my understanding of what's too much grain, what's too much, like when you overdo a piece, understanding where the piece is going to be used in terms of in game or film. Is it a hero asset? What's its purpose? How much detail is required? When to simplify it? Try not to overthink things. So there were so much different things I was learning through his feedback, and through obviously the portfolio. I also introduced him to my current project. If you haven't checked it out, based off Parallel World concept art piece Mark Lee's. So I showed him my train piece, and he was telling me that it was really strong, it was good, and he was really looking forward to hearing about my progress. And because of this portfolio review, I now have a contact to keep in touch with, and if I ever need to reach out to him, hopefully I can talk to him about it. So by attending Vertex, I was able to identify what I needed to do portfolio-wise, and obviously going on to the next major topic, which is obviously like the studios and stuff and how to get in there. But he really helped me with that. So I highly recommend going to, like if you're in London or in the UK, just make the most of this, as there's so much stuff that goes on. Like, for example, he was an environment artist portfolio review, but there was also animators getting their portfolio reviewed by animators, and there was concept artists getting their concept art reviewed. So there's all these different areas getting tackled at this one place, and so much feedback and so much support. So make sure to check it out. So the main, I guess the whole main reason in terms of why I wanted to go to Vertex. So as artists, we always ask ourselves, where do I want to go? What career path do I want to go and accomplish? And obviously the main question that you need to get answered for that is, how do I get in? How do I get there? And by attending Vertex, I was able to talk with a variety of different companies, from Framestore to Rare to Sumo Digital to even companies that are software developers such as Modo. Like, they were able to give me insight as well to like software skills and so forth to help me pursue my career path. But I always wanted to make sure that I was able to identify the main question, which was, how do I get into this studio? For example, I had a long discussion, probably 20 minutes to 30 minutes, with one of the main recruiters at Framestore, and I was asking them, what do I need to do to get there? And obviously they were getting flooded by so many people because they're one of the major companies at this event, and obviously they're in London, and with all the stuff that they're creating, which is awesome, you could tell there was a lot of people interested. And it's I think naturally, as artists, we tend to overthink the whole process, I guess, of how to get into a studio. But the one thing I didn't realize, in terms of, I didn't appreciate it as much until I talked to these people, which was the importance of the role as a runner. So if you're new to the whole creative industries, the runner is basically a position in which you're right at the bottom. However, it is your entry point, in terms of it is your starting point to go up the ladder in terms of getting the spot that you want. And obviously the runner, it has its different like requirements in terms of like the position itself varies depending on where you work at. Like, for example, you make the tea, you make the coffee, you help out with the small things around the studio to make things function. But there's also other roles as a runner, in terms of you might be able to be involved with learning as you go along. So there's a lot of benefits, and the actual whole idea of the runner is simply just to get yourself in the industry. So if you're an environment artist, if you're a concept artist, whatever creative field you're trying to get into, make sure that to not overthink the whole, I need to become an environment artist straight away. Like, obviously that's great that you want to get that position straight away, and I highly respect it. I'm the exact same. I know what I want to do, and I'm pretty sure you know what you want to do. However, don't underestimate the importance of this position. So I highly recommend you guys checking out these runner positions at studios, wherever you live. If you live in America, if you're in Europe, wherever you are, Asia, whatever. Identify the position of the runner at a studio, see what it entails, and see how it progresses you forward to the position that you want to get, whether it's environment, concept art, 3D, 2D, and so forth. And use that as your stepping stone to progress further as an artist. And realize that a lot of studios, they look at the runners first before they look outside. So in terms of recruitments, this is a thing I didn't understand as an artist until I went to this event, and it's because of Vertex I was able to gain this knowledge that they look at the runners first before they look outside of their studio. So if you're an environment artist or an aspiring environment artist and you're a runner, say at Frame Store or Double Negative or any of these major companies, they're going to be like, right, the people that we already have in our studio, we want to go to them first because they're already here. So we're going to utilize their skill set first before we look outside and check anywhere else, because they've already got in, so we might as well give them the respect that they deserve. So they're going to want to employ the people that that's, I guess, also easiest and closest to them. So always look into these things. So I really hope that piece of advice helps, because that was one of the major things that gave me a wake-up call overall. So we've talked about a variety of different things. So we've talked about the portfolio reviews, we've talked about my reasoning for going to this event, and obviously at this event there was a whole expo going on. There was about 30 different booths, there was Modo, there was software developers going on, there was a life drawing session live taking place. It was a live model, and there was about 50 people to 100 people drawing this guy. It was amazing. There was VR demonstrations of new technology, of games that are currently in development, not in development, but have been currently or just recently released. So there was a lot of studios. There was like Blue Zoo, the Foundry, Frame Store, Sumo Digital, and so forth. Things I've already discussed. The other main thing, so there was quite a few main things that Vertex, in terms of like why I wanted to go, and the other main, I guess, reason was the guest speakers. So hearing from people in the industry, hearing about their journey, hearing about what they do, and hearing how they make things. And this is where all the juiciness happens. This is where all the good stuff starts going. Like your mind just goes, I don't know, it was just awesome. Like, so I got to have the privilege of meeting one of my idols, which is a awesome supervisor called Christian Mantz. So basically, Christian Mantz, I'll give you a brief description of what his presentation entailed and what he did. So Christian Mantz, he was a joint overall supervisor of Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.
I can't move against Grindelwald. It has to be you.
Technically, you can do just about anything these days. So I think more of our job, and I think what we're set with the challenge by both Jodie Rowling scripts and David Yates, is to creatively push the envelope and use the technology to aid that. We had some very specific things that Joe had written in the script, but we also had like Newt's Hospital, where it was maybe a few more background creatures that we could go on some of the same journey that we did with the case. But one of the key creatures was the Zulu. You know, it's fairly specifically written as like a Chinese tiger-like creature. One of the animation artists built it and animated it and got it moving. And then really it was a voyage of discovery, working out how it would move, how it would look, what its tail would be made of, etc., etc. In the script, it described it as it runs 1,000 miles a day, and Tim and I were always like, my God, you know, wow, how are we going to describe that? How are we going to show that? So we came up with maybe the idea that it could magically leap and bend time, distort space-time, and land in a different space, so it could cover a large distance very quickly. You know, it's over a year's work just for that one moment in terms of concept and working out how on earth to do it.
The moment has come to take our rightful place.
Nagini appearing when we read the script, we went, oh my God, Nagini's a woman in this film, not a snake. And we wanted to try and come up with a kind of authentic way to turn a woman into a long tube. You know, how are we gonna do that to make it feel real, and we came up with the idea that really maybe she's almost consumed by the snake rather than physically kind of extending out. You would have her being wrapped in her own coils, disappearing and then coming out as a snake. So we had a contortionist, so Claudia Kim, who played Nagini. We showed her obviously what we were planning, and she acted the first portion of the shot. But then we had another contortionist in who was dressed in a matching costume, and she did the first portion of the shot. So for real, she bent over backwards and put her head through her own legs. Got shot elements of Claudia Kim kind of pushing herself along the ground and turning her head up, matching kind of a previs that we had done, which then was glued together with a full CG version of the human character and a full CG snake. So again, all in all, that's about 14 months worth of work for that one moment on film. I don't think you've seen a woman pulled into a wall and turn into a snake before. So it's really just trying how to get those moments over, but as I say, feeling as grounded and real as possible. We just wanted to make it feel like what would happen if you were actually physically there watching that happen, rather than it feeling like an effect. And that's what I think the technology gives us the ability to do now.
The wizarding and non-wizarding worlds have been at peace for over a century. Grindelwald wants to see that peace destroyed.
He's worked on a variety of awesome films and games and TV series. So he was talking about like Fantastic Beasts, like the first one, the second one, and he fully broke down how they made each shot. And hearing from one of your idols in VFX and how he did it, and seeing how long it took, and it was just really cool. So like you'd be surprised about how long it would take some of these shots. For example, in this is a spoiler alert, so if you're not seen Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald yet, I just can't maybe move on a few seconds or try and skip it as much as you can. There's a scene where Nagini is getting transformed during a circus scene, and this one shot, which was only a few minutes long, took them 16 months to create. And like hearing that, I was like, oh my gosh, like it was just that crazy. I did not expect it to be 16 months because of how complex the scene was. It basically involved I'm not sure what you call the actors that do this, but basically they're able to like transform their body like because of their joints. Like they have this crazy flexibility, and then they merged that with the VFX on top of that, and seeing the green screen involvement, like all this getting put into like just a few seconds, like say 30 seconds to a minute of footage, and hearing about how complex it was awesome. So he also talked about like 5 major VFX shots. So right at the start, another spoiler if you've not seen it, basically Johnny Depp, who plays Grindelwald, is introduced into the world in terms of he's escaped from prison, and basically there's a whole awesome scene that's probably about 3 to 4 minutes long in the movie, in which he's on the Thestrals and he's escaping from the prison because they're about to take him to Paris. And basically you see the whole start to finish process of how they did it, and it was through watching this video and hearing how Christian explained the process, really just reminded me of why I want to get into film and why film is awesome and why there's so many awesome areas to work in. And the same thing applied to the other talks. So the people who are interested in games, who are interested in concept art, they were able to see how things worked and how they did things, and hear about the process, how long it took, what limitations they had at the time. For example, one of the main things that were discussed was a famous panning shot discussed in Fantastic Beasts 2, in which they're entering the Ministry of Magic, and there's a camera that's a camera shot is probably only about, I would say, about 10 seconds long, but it was that complex that they're about 5 years ago when they were making Harry Potter 5, the technology was not advanced enough to make this incredible shot. Like I still have no idea in terms of how long this one shot took, but it was amazing seeing how they did it. It was almost like a spiral effect, and the camera was just panning all the way around into the ministry itself. It was super dope. But before I lose track and geeking around about Harry Potter, what else happened at the event? So one of the main things so many main things, I keep saying the word main, that I loved about this event was Imagine FX, 3D Arts, and 3D World. So basically these three major magazine companies, so the three biggest magazine companies in the world for VFX, for creatives, were there. And they're one of the main reasons for this event as well. And I had the privilege to talk to these amazing people about the Student Art Podcast, so talking about helping students, helping creatives get where they want to go. And I also had the privilege to showcase them my work. So these magazine companies, obviously, they do a similar thing, for example, to a thing called 80 Level. So basically, they showcase people's artwork and talk about the breakdowns, the process. They also talk about the software, and that then links into play with the software companies that were there. So there was Modo, there was all these different companies there that work together, and all of this always gets highlighted on these magazines. And by talking to these magazines companies, I was able to learn a lot about how they did things, how they advertised things, and I was able to get new contacts as well. Because at the end of the day, that's one of the main reasons why you go there. Like that, or to be honest, that is the main reason why you go there. You go there to talk to people. You go there to learn from people and building a connection with people that you want to work with. Because at the end of the day, you want to get an outcome. Like you want to create something that's going to build you as an artist. You don't go to these events to not talk to people, and that's the reason. Like never feel shy to talk to these people. Like all these people, obviously they're new to you. They've not met you before, but these people are always open to talk to you and help and share their work, share their process, give you feedback. All these amazing, awesome things that you can utilize as an artist, and it simply comes from asking questions. So if you attend this event, you're going to be flooded. Your mind is going to be racing. It's going to be great. Like I was just exhausted at the end of the day. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning to go to the airport, and then I got back about 10 o'clock at night. So it was a long day, and that's another important thing. So the event itself was actually on for 9 hours. So it was on from 9 in the morning to like 6. And there was even extra things on till I think 7 or something. There was a lot of different things taking place at this one event. So another thing that I had the privilege to explore into. So me as a person who's very passionate of lighting and rendering, I got to explore some really cool Cinema 4D rendering engines, focusing on like a real-time rendering. So there's really cool software developers there discussing about like the pros of their software, and I was able to explore different new games as well through VR. So there was a lot of different things going on. Another thing that took place, that happens at this event, is it's called a project room. So what is a project room? Well, it's pretty much exactly how it's described. So basically there's a project room, a whole room in which there's all these different hands-on learning taking place. So for example, there's one called Visual Adventures on the Sea of Thieves, in which art director Ryan Stevenson will share behind the scenes visual development from Rare's shared world pirate adventure game, and the team's approach to creating a rich and vibrant world, from finding and defining the right art style to how the studio maintains consistency over everything within the world. With an ever-expanding world of adventure, there can be art challenges in the stormy sea of development, but with a clear visual direction, you can always navigate to golden shores. So, what does this mean? So basically, he was able to go in depth with all these other people about how they created the visuals for Adventure of Sea of Thieves. And by going to these events such as Vertex, you're able to take part in actual projects and learn once again how to do things. For example, there was a whole project room called using Blender in concept art for film. So they would teach you how to the basics and fundamentals of how to use Blender in concept art for film, because Blender is another one that's growing rapidly. It's free as well. So all these different things took place in Vertex. So I know there's a lot of information there. There's a lot to take in, but it's a thing that I want you to take advantage of. obviously there's going to be a lot of people who maybe don't have this privilege to attend this place, but hopefully there's a lot of information that I've been able to discuss there that will hopefully help you out. If there's events near you, obviously if it's not Vertex, I'm pretty sure Vertex at the moment is purely London based, because it's like their main event in terms of like covers not just only the studios in London, but the kind of the UK as a whole. Like for example, if you don't live in the UK, try and explore the places outside near you, and if there isn't, try and think of a country that's in relatively close traveling distance that might be possible for you. And just remember, even if you don't attend these events, it's not the end of the day. It means it just helps you propel yourself forward by attending these things, in terms of it helps you find out information through obviously the main thing of asking questions. But always try and go to things as much as possible. For example, the main one that's going on at the moment is GDC, and I know a lot of people who are currently attending GDC from Scotland and from England and so forth, and a few of my friends in America. And them going there, they've learned a tremendous amount. They've met tons of people, and they've now been able to propel themselves forward to the direction that they want to go. So I'm going to include all the links in the description for Vertex. It'll be just in the bottom below. Make sure to check out. So I believe it's the same time every year. So it takes place in March. I think on the 8th and 9th the 8th or the 9th of March. And they've got a whole updated, I believe, list of who their next guests are. But just make sure to double check it. So if it is something that you're interested in, I highly recommend it. It was a great experience, like I said. So yeah, if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to give it a like. It's a lot shorter, but today's video was purely designed around introducing you guys to something new, something fresh. So make sure to give it a like, give it a subscribe on YouTube. It'll be super appreciated. I can't thank you guys enough for reaching 1,000 subscribers. It means so much. I will be making a 1,000 subscriber video very shortly. You might even be able to see my face for the first time. You're like, oh my god, I can see Ross in person now, or his face in reality. Right. Thank you so much for listening, guys. It really means a lot, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now, and go enjoy some more.